Good afternoon again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We'll get to the JRC in a moment, but first, the disclaimers and the trigger warnings. If you're unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, pertinent links will be in the description box. Please, in particular, take a look at Autistic Hoya's massive archive. I always have it linked in every single description box. It has the bulk of all material that we show on this channel in regards to the JRC. We have the article written by Neuroclastic, the one that the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center has threatened a defamation lawsuit towards Neuroclastic with. They don't remove it from the website. Neuroclastic refused. They did interview over 800 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so-called behavior modification program. That tells me that's the kind of article you want to be reading. So please read the article, share it on all your social media. We have Neuroclastic's public statement in regards to the whole defamation lawsuit and their GoFundMe in there as well, because unlike the JRC, we do not have access to unlimited funding. I also want to point out my little word foible there, where I was kind of having difficulty figuring out what to say. That is part of being autistic, folks. In particular, when I'm overexhausted, or if I wake up way too late and my routine is off, and I live in a semi-permanent space of autistic brain fog. Kind of feels like I'm walking through cotton every day, and like everything's like looking through the morning fog. Anyways, before I go too much further into left field, to the trigger warnings. When we discuss places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center or Agape Boarding School for Boys, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of people's mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please use your headphones. Also, this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We do use profanity and speak on dark subjects. If your child's 16 and younger and watching, parental supervision is advised. Also, the JRC gaslights. They victim blame. They character assassinate. They will gaslight you into next year and doom our poor brains to a level of word salad that not even Elaine Brenda Hoff is actually capable of. So just kind of prepare yourselves for that, okay? Where we left off. Even if one accepts the speculative risks the FDA outlines in the ban as probabilities, though the available data and information still indicates those probabilities are quite low, the only rational conclusion is that any set of reasonable patients would be willing to accept those risks in the light of the extraordinary and demonstrable benefits the device provides to people who routinely put themselves and others in grave danger of serious physical harm. Allow me to say, on the behalf of myself, a 40-year-old autistic who's had the same diagnosis reconfirmed by 3 different treatment teams, no less, that is a bold-faced lie. First of all, none of those so-called positive changes are permanent. They would not follow me outside of that school because they would be nothing more than performative. It would be me doing only exactly what I would need to do to try and keep myself from being abused through the human shock collar, through starvation, and through lack of sleep. Okay? There is no planet, parallel universe, anywhere, if you believe in a multiverse theory, where I would be willing, under any circumstances, to be forced on that device. I would rather be shot. Okay? Hell, I'd rather get the old treason punishment from medieval England. Drawn, quartered, insides ripped out. Because as horrific as that all is, at least it's kind of all done at once. And it's not something that's going to be able to be continued down the line. Because at that point, I'd be fucking dead. Okay? I would never, ever, under any circumstances, regardless of what the situation would be willing to put that device on myself and hand over control to a complete, utter stranger to shock me anytime I do something they consider weird. Because let's face it, I'm not just autistic. I am a girl who loves thrash metal. I don't care about social norms. Never did. Only engage in them when I have to deal with politicians. And afterwards, I have to spend at least 3 days not interacting with any living being except for my cat. Okay? Under no circumstances would I ever allow, if my consent actually mattered in this so-called scenario, that anyone would put me on that device and then hand the controls off to a stranger. Okay? There is no circumstances where I would ever consent to that. Ever. But what if you had such grave, self-injurious harm where you detached your retinas and you were like the kids here, and this is the only thing that will stop you? Shut up. Shut up. I'm so tired of that line, I can't see straight. I was that kid. Okay, JRC, I was that kid. Body slams, head slamming into walls and into the carpeted floor, hair ripped out, self-strangulation, digging nails either into my palms or into these forearms here until I bled, pounding a hairbrush bristles down so hard repeatedly until I bled. I was that child. Stop telling me I don't understand and that I was never, quote unquote, as severe as these kids are that you're mentioning, because yes, I was. Yes, I was. Okay. Spare me the bullshit. A lot of the advocates, JRC, that come against you were also those children when they were young. Okay? Stop telling us that this is the only thing that works while simultaneously explaining behaviors that at least some, not all of us, have engaged in. And then telling us that that is the only way, because we are living proof that that is absolute horseshit. Absolute horseshit. Okay? I no longer, at least not all the time, dig my nails into the forearms or into the palms of my hands until they bleed. As I've told you all before, not all bad behaviors are gonna be gone forever, because that's just not how reality works. However, those types of self-injurious behavior and aggressive behavior have been greatly reduced in frequency and intensity to where I can literally spend multiple years before one of those behaviors rear its ugly head. Usually it's during the moments where I'm completely and utterly overwhelmed from stress, or something triggered a flashback and the PTSD takes over. And then inevitably, the not so fun part of my diagnosis will rear its ugly head. What happened though, because we did things right in the same way, was we got the frequency and the intensity down to a point that even when they do crop up here and there, they do not in any way become an overall detriment to me being able to live my life, interact, and contribute to my own community. Okay? It's because we did it the same way. Because we dug and found out what the triggers were, finding out that some of those triggers were due to what I went through in childhood. They got me set up with a trauma-informed therapist, psychologist, and psychiatrist that works together with all the other doctors. You see where we're going here, right? I did not need a human shock collar on me at all times, with someone following me 3 feet back everywhere I go to be able to accomplish that. All it took was looking into the triggers and creating a plan of attack from there. Once you do that, behaviors will naturally begin to decrease on their own. No shock collar was needed. Okay? There are other kids that have had similar behaviors in childhood that are on what is considered general standard care. And you know what? Even, yes, for the nonverbals, JRC, getting to the triggers and then using that knowledge to provide reasonable accommodations, self-soothing techniques, whatever might be needed, addressing the root problem from which everything else stems, means that everything else will begin to ebb and get less and less as you deal with the root problem. This is basic logic 101 here. Stop telling people that this is the only way. There are too many of us alive right now that through our own life experiences can tell you what an enormous lie that is. Okay? Number 2. None of us. And considering I work with not just ASAN, but multiple other disability rights folks, different neurodivergents, I've also worked with NAMI, with mental health, I can tell you, none of them would be chomping at the bit to sign up to be put on that shock collar to make themselves better. Every single other person I've ever talked to, inside and outside of this field, would choose a bullet over that device. But look, what about all these benefits? I obtained all of those benefits with no violence being perpetrated upon me by my medical team or my support team. Let me say that again. all these things you're listing here, I can do them all. Which I learned over a period of time, with skills that remained with me afterwards, because when I picked up those skills, it was not something I was learning under duress. So they remained with me, and I was able to take those lessons to my first assisted living place, which thankfully I don't even need that anymore, but transition services are transition services. And I used those skills to help the other residents at that place. Sometimes to the point that I would be considered like the unofficial co-supervisor person there. Passing those skills on to others without threatening violence against their person. Had somebody forced me to do those things under threat, I would have lost all of those skills. Not only that, but I would view those skills through a lens that was tinted with anger, rage, suffering, and pain. Because being forced under fear of violence is going to change how you look at those skills. I'm sorry, it's how psychology works. You begin to resent the skills that they're forcing on you. And later down the road, you will associate all of those things with punishment, not positive things. So in actuality, it does the exact reverse of what the JRC is trying to tell you that it does. Okay? So now, as a 40-year-old autistic woman who has worked in this field in one capacity or another, both officially and these days as more as a consultant and mentor. And I shill for ASAN, obviously. None of us would ever consent to be forced on that device. And none of those things you listed say, but what if it means you could do all of that? There are other ways. Yes, even for the nonverbal. Yes, even for those of us who did have severe SIB and AB. To gain those skills that doesn't involve having the JRC hang the sword of Damocles over their students' necks in the form of a human shock collar. And folks, in regards to the so-called speculative risks, JRC, if I have ER documents, and we do, go to Autistic Koya's massive archive, they're all there. If I have ER documents that are detailing the injury sustained from the GED device, including second and third degree burns and loss of feeling, among other things, that means that is no longer speculative. That means it's not just a risk. It means your device has already a long track record of causing physical damage to your students. And far from being few and in between, we've got so many separate documentation in regards to those injuries that the archive is still growing with them. Okay? We are not AH. We come with receipts, we come with photos, we come with video surveillance footage, we come with the doctors who had the ERs that oversaw treatment for said injuries. Okay? Minuscule and worth the risk, my ass. Temporary stopping one of your behaviors for constantly shocking you and keeping you in a state of absolute terror for years on end. Nah, no. Peace, I'm out. No thanks. Okay? No thanks. But did you put yourself and others at serious physical harm? To close this out, JRC, I'm just going to say this. Do not make me tap the side again. We're going to close out on this one, folks. We don't get very many views on this channel, and the few we do tend to get removed from time to time. So please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and please, folks, don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time, and as always, folks, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. I'll see you all in a minute. Bye, everyone.